Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we just wrapped up doing interviews following practice today. There's some things I'd like to get to because we were also able to watch practice for about 20 minutes and, talk to players, D'Eriq King, Mike Harley, Bobo Bolden, and Amari Carter. I want to talk about a little bit some of the things that they had to say afterwards. But first, just talking about practice today. So once again, it was the first one that we've gotten to see this week leading up to the big game against Alabama. And one of the things I was paying a lot of attention to was the wide receivers today. Coach Likens was very vocal on these guys, really wanted them to get in and out of their breaks. They worked a lot on inside slants, but also they do other drills. We just weren't able to see everything they were working on today. But once again, working on those cuts with the, out of the breaks, quick slants, get the ball to the wide receivers as quickly as possible. D'Eriq King looked good, once again, no surprise with how D'Eriq's looking. And with the depth chart, if you guys haven't seen the depth chart, you can see the full depth chart on InsideTheU.com. But a backup quarterback has Tyler Van Dyke or Jake Garcia. I've said this quite a few times, but if Miami were to go to a backup for whatever reason, I would assume it would be Tyler. And Tyler's been kind of working with that second unit, that second group, a lot of fall camp, but that doesn't mean that Jake hasn't looked good either. But just something to keep an eye on. But, D'Eriq, with a lot of these guys, it's a big game for them. This is arguably the biggest game of their careers. Many of them, and I was able to ask Bubba Bolden maybe some things that they were able to take from the Clemson game a year ago. Obviously, it didn't go Miami's way. The score got away from them there, but I do think it was a good experience for them to see what it's like to play a Clemson or an Alabama. I think one of the things that's tough in facing Alabama, in addition to all their players and the coaching staff and everything, but it's a different animal, it's a different opponent. If you haven't seen them very often, then it is difficult to go against. And obviously Clemson is different than Alabama personnel. There are differences, but the point is these are the two top programs in college football, and I do think it is a benefit. I think it does help Miami in some sense that they did face at Clemson last year. A lot of these players that will be in the game on Saturday do have that experience, and the biggest thing that that Bubba said about it was just that they realized he felt like the moment was too big for the team last year during that time. And he feels like this team has a better approach, better mindset going into this one. Certainly part of that is you've had all off-season to think about who your opponent is. So just something to watch for. We'll see how it all plays out, but I just want to pass that note along. As far as defensive backs, watching practice today, touched on Bubba a little bit. But, some people are curious about Tyrique Stevenson. I think for a few weeks now we've been kind of saying that it looks like it might be DJ Ivey and Corey Couch as the two starting corners. It showed up on the depth chart. Tyrique kind of the backup role for both of those guys. I think all three of them are going to play a lot. I think Alabama is going to have different receivers out there at one time. I think they do like Tyrique's physicality out there. And I just think that even if Tyrique is behind those guys, I don't think he's completely trailing those guys where you've just got to go with those two. And Tyrique's not going to get a lot of playing time. But just something to watch for. It's a big game for Tyrique. He's out to prove that he can play that outside cornerback position. Some of you are a little curious about his weight, but the biggest thing with it is he's got to find a way to use it to his advantage, be physical against the run, which is going to be very important in this one. And I think that it's just something that you've got to watch for with the cornerbacks. I think all three guys will play, and then Alblaze Jr. is still listed as a cornerback on the depth chart. As you know, saw him at safety working out of practice last week, so we will see kind of where he fits in. It wouldn't surprise me to see him play a little bit of both, because right now the backup safeties are a pair of freshmen on the depth chart. Cameron Kitchens and James Williams both bring something different to the table. But I do think that the majority of the reps will go to Bubba and Gervin Hall at safety. So kind of speaking a little bit about safeties or former safeties, Amari Carter spoke today. He earned that job to be the team striker. Once again, they're looking for a little bit more physicality. I think Gilbert will play. I think what Miami's doing right now with the depth chart is really trying to find guys against this opponent and try to match either the strength like Amari or at linebacker with a Keontra Smith, trying to go with a little bit more speed than the other linebackers. So I think they're really paying attention to that with these matchups, particularly on defense. Certainly I still think Miami has their hands full against an Alabama team that does have a lot of new faces. But if you've paid any attention to Alabama over the years, you know that regardless of who they've had, they've found ways to be successful with different styles of offense, either with balance or going high-powered over the top or mixing in a strong running game. And I think that's what this Alabama team will still have. The key will be, will Miami be able to disrupt them a little bit in game one, make Bryce Young uncomfortable, and I'll have a little bit more on that later in the week. But just kind of some other observations from practice. I should have mentioned this from the beginning, but Zion Nelson was out there. We didn't see a ton of drills with the offensive line, but he was moving drill to drill, working on his movement there. So I am still a little, I know that the coaches are real, they've been real optimistic and confident that he'll play in the opener and be ready. And while that still seems to be the case, I'm a little concerned maybe about how effective he'll be. You know, it's a guy with a lot of experience, so I get that, but if he's missed a lot of fall camp, will he be ready to go against a tough Alabama defensive line? Arguably one of the best defensive ends in the country, and Will Anderson. You guys will hear a lot about him. And definitely check out the preview video of the game if you guys haven't seen that, where I talked with Charlie Potter of Bama Online, talked a lot about Will Anderson. So more on him, but I just think it's something to watch for with Zion, and we'll see how he does the rest of the week, you know, but and see how he does in the game. But if he's unable to go, or more importantly, if he's unable to be effective, they'll go with Jared Williams, their left tackle. So they've got some tackle options with DJ Scaife at right. So that'll be what they do. They either go Jared at left. What will be interesting if Zion is in there at left tackle, will they stick with DJ Scaife at right tackle, where Jared slide back in? That'll be something to watch for. I think Jared's got a little bit. I think he's got a little bit more ability than DJ has shown, particularly last year. But we'll see how this one shakes out. So I think just some notes on the offensive line, defensive end, defensive lineman. Many of you are curious about what's going on there. Yes, as you know, Zach McCloud, Jafari Harvey are the two starters. I think DeAndre Johnson's going to play a lot, transfer from Tennessee. You guys know that. I think those three guys will kind of rotate left and right throughout, and then sprinkle in Chance Williams when they can. I do think they do like to go with a full unit, a second group. So I think you'll see a set of 4 and 4. With the addition being Leonard Taylor, I think you'll see him in this one because I think his abilities will be too hard to keep off the field. And he right now is looking at that 5th defensive tackle spot. So just some depth chart stuff. Watch him practice again today. Maybe some other things of note. I think Miami players afterwards were doing their best to downplay the game and saying it's just another game or just another opponent. I've never understood that approach. Publicly, I think it's okay to understand who your opponent is, understand what Alabama's been. I know they don't want to give them too much credit, but I think you got to be careful on downplaying them too much and the things that they've done. I think this happened last year with Clemson. I think it's happened with Clemson the last couple times they've played them. So we will see how it all shakes out. I know these guys are real confident. They're really looking forward to the opportunity and seeing how it all plays out. One thing that Derek King mentioned was he didn't want to make it too big of a game in the sense that they've got the rest of the schedule, the rest of the season still left, regardless of what happens in this game. So I thought that was interesting. And then, I think that kind of wraps up some notes with those 4 players. Some observations from practices, complete observations, complete recap of what the players had to say will be on the website. But I just want to give you this instant reaction from campus here in Coral Gables. Another great day, another warm day here in South Florida. So definitely thank everybody for watching. Definitely have a good rest of the day and take care.